Hello guys, welcome to all of you in Codetpoint. My name is Amit and today we are going to continue with Python learning series. In this tutorial, we are going to cover list in Python. In the previous class, we had covered string and its operations and some of the function of the strings. In today's agenda, we are going to cover list in Python, its method and its functions. So let's go and start it. So the question is, what is list? So this is already we have discussed into the data types in Python, but once again we are going to discuss it. So what is list? To answer these questions, we can say that it is one of the data type in Python which can store multiple element and it can represent in the form of square bracket. I am repeating my statement again. So Python is one of the data type list is one of the data type in Python which can store multiple element and it can represent in the form of square bracket. So this is called list in Python. So we can say that is to represent a list, we can start with square bracket and then we can place element inside it. So today we are going to cover some of the topics which is like list versus array, creating a list, accessing the element from the list, add, delete and edit in the list, operation in the list, function in the list, and the last one, list comprehensions, which we will cover into the separate videos. But this is also a very important topic for the list point of view. So let's go and start it. So the first question is, what are the properties of the list? So we can say that list is a mutable data object and it can contain heterogeneous element. So it means that we can make changes inside the list and we can store the multiple data types inside the list. Correct? It can be the elements inside it can be into ordered or the sequential forms. So it means that we can apply indexing into the list and it can contain duplicates. So these are very important features, or you can say that is properties of list. So let's come back to the point. First topic is list versus array. So what is the difference between list and array? So we can say that array is one of the data type which can store homogeneous elements. I'm repeating again. Array is one of the data type that can store homogeneous element, while list is a data type which can store heterogeneous elements, right? It means that the data inside or the data elements inside the array should be same. If it is integer, then all the elements should be into the integer. If it is in a string, all elements should be into the string, right? While it is opposite to the list. So this is one difference. Second difference is, we can say that the elements stored into the array in the memory is into the sequential order. Okay. So that means in the memory locations, it is going to store in the sequence wise, while it is not happening with list. And you can say that by looking into these properties, since all the elements are homogeneous and it is stored into the sequential order into the memory, so that means to retrieval the data or to retrieval the elements from the array makes it faster. So it means that so data accessing properties is very, very faster in array compared to the list. So these are the very three important differences between array and the list. So let's go and create the list into the Jupyter notebook. So I'm going to the Jupyter notebook and first I'm going to create the list. So creating the list. So we can create the list by using square bracket, and we can put elements inside it. So let's say 2, 4, 3, 10, 20, 15, 30, 60, let's say hello. Correct? So this is my list. So we can create by using square bracket and put the element inside it. So any element, that means heterogeneous element, we can put it. So this is one of the method. If I'm going to print A, it will be so that these are the elements inside the list. Another way we can use by using list function. So let's say I'm going to create by using list function, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a iterable object inside the list parameter, right? So let's say I'm going to put welcome, and if I'm going to execute it, so if I'm going to execute it, it will be print B. So it is going to create a list of this iterable object, and all the elements of this string is converted into the list object, right? Similarly, you can create list inside the list. So that means list inside the list, that means 2D list. So let's say list1 is equal to 1, 5, 4, 3, 5, let's say 6, 8. So that means list inside the list, it is a 2D list, correct? So this is also, you can create the list. Again, list inside the list, which is 3D list. So let's say I'm going to create a 3D list. Means 1 square bracket, 2 square bracket, and 3 square bracket. So let's say 2, 3, and let's say 10, 20, 10, 20, then let's say 30, 50. Okay, so that means list 2 is having a 3D list, that means list inside the list and inside the list, correct? So this is a way we can create the list, right? Next is accessing the element from the list. Accessing the element from the list. So in this way, we can do it. Since we have already gone through, or we have already studied in a very details about indexing and slicing, so we are going to apply the same concept over here to access the element of the list, correct? So let's say if I'm going to access the first element of A, so what we are going to write? A bracket and 0. So what we will get? We will get 2, which is like, first element of this list. Similarly, if I'm going to use A bracket 1, so that means the value at first indexing position, which is 4 of this list. Similarly, if you are going to access the last element, so that means you can use -1 and you can get hello, right? Which is a last element of this list. So you can use indexing. If you are going to use the multiple element, or if you are going to access the multiple elements, in that case, we are going to use slicing, right? So let's say in this case, I'm going to use A bracket 0, 5. And what we will get? We will get 2, 4, 3, 10, 20, which is from here to here, correct? Similarly, if I am going to use, let's say A, 5, and 5 And in this time, what I'm going to do is I'm not providing any stop options. So only 5 colon and executing it. So what we are getting? So it is going to start with from here to all the elements. So 15 to all the elements, rest of the element, right? So this is about indexing and slicing. So let's say in this case, we are going to use this list. For example, if I have to extract 6 from this list 1. For example, if I have to extract the 6 from this list 1. In that way, what we are going to write, since it is a list inside the list, in that case, we will use double square bracket, because the first square bracket will be, through the first square bracket, we will able to enter into the first list, and then again by using second bracket, we will use to access the list inside the list. So let's go and see that. In this case, what I am going to use, list 1. So that means this is my last element, 6, 8, which is itself a list. So I'm going to use list 1 bracket, and inside the bracket I'm just putting -1. That means it will give us 6, 8. This is a list, and from that I would like to access first element, which is 6. So in that case, we are going to use one more bracket and then putting 0. And what we will get? We will get, okay, in this case, we will get 6, right? So let's say we would like to access 8. So in that case, what we are going to do is we can use 1 and we will be able to access 8. Now let's consider this list. And in this case, for example, if we have to access, let's say 10, then what we should do it? We can apply again the similar concept. Since it is 3D list, in that case, what we will do? We will use 3 brackets, 3 square brackets. So list 2 and square bracket, we have to extract 10. So that means in this list, the outer list, and after that there is one more list inside it. So this is a first element of this list, okay? And then after that, it is, you can say that the second list, and second list, it is a first element of that list. And since it will give us a list itself, which is 10, 20, and from that we would like to access the first element, which is 10. For that, we are putting 0. And let's execute it. So in that case, we will get 10, right? So this is a way we can able to access the elements from 2D or 3D list, correct? So let's go to the next part. Next part is add, delete, and edit in the list. Okay. So in this case, we can perform some addition, deletions, and editing in the list. Since list is a mutable data type, so we can perform these operations. So additions can be performed can be performed by 3 ways. So I'm going to write append. So these are the methods we can use, or the functions we can use to perform this task. So that means any element we are going to add, or any, you can say, object, or you can say any data types we are going to add, we can perform through these functions. So by using append, or by using extend, and by using insert. So these are the 3 methods. For that, we can able to perform additions, any element inside the list. So let's go one by one and discuss it. So let's say in this case, a dot append, and in that case, I'm going to use, let's say I'm going to add 100, correct? So I'm going to perform a dot append bracket 100 and see what is happening. And in this case, I'm going to use print A, right? So what it give us to us? Since I have executed 2 times, because first I used a.append first time, then I used print. Understand it? Before writing the print statement, I had already executed it. So that's why it has already added 100. And since I executed once again a.append bracket 100 and then print A, that is why this time this line has been executed once again, and that is why you can see the 100 2 times over here. So let's say this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a.append, and let's say this time I'm going to add 200, correct? And now I'm going to use print A, correct? So you can say that is we are going to append a element at the end of the list. So what append does? It is going to add the element at the end of the list. It will add the element at the end of the list. Okay. So by using append, we can add only one element at a time. We cannot add multiple elements. So let's go to use extend. So a.extend, in that case, what I'm going to do is by using extend, we can add multiple elements inside the list at a time. So let's say this time I'm going to add 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. Let's say I'm going to add 4 elements, right? And then I'm going to print A, correct? So this is how we can able to perform the multiple elements can be added into the list, right? So let's say if I'm going to add one more element. So let's say this time I'm going to add some string. Okay. So let's say a.extend, and what I'm going to use, let's say 5000, Python, let's say welcome. Okay. So let's say we are going to add these elements, right? So these are heterogeneous elements, so we are going to add. And let's say I'm going to print, sorry for that, let me close the bracket, then print A. So it is going to add these 3 elements. Okay. So this is how we can perform append and extend. So difference between append and extend is append add the element one at a time at the end of the list, while extend add the element at the end of the list with the multiple elements. So that means if we want to add multiple element, so we can use extend. But we have to add one single element, then in case we can use append, right? Let's go to use insert. So let's say we are going to insert some of the element at particularly choice. Let's say in the first indexing positions, or maybe second, or maybe third, or maybe last. So that means insert give us options to add the element at particular locations, particular indexing positions. For example, between 2 and 4, let's say if I'm going to add, let's say 100. Between 2 and 4, if I'm going to add a new element, for example, let's say 50. Between 2 and 4, I'm going to use 50 because 100 is already there. If I'm going to add 50 between 2 and 4, so that means we can use insert. So I'm going to use a.insert. In that case, since between 2 and 4, 2 is my first indexing object, and between 2 and 4, that the next object will be first indexing. So that means my object will be placed at first indexing positions. And what will the value? let's say 50. And this time what I'm going to use, print A. So it will going to insert 50 between 2 and 4. Correct? So this is a way we can use append, insert, and extend. Right? Let's go to the next point, which is delete, okay, and edit in list. So let's go to the delete. Since we have already added, so the now next step is, can we remove the elements from it? So the answer is yes. So by using some of the functions, for example, we can use del, we can use remove, we can use pop, and we can use clear. So by using these 4 functions, we can perform deletion operations. So let's say if I would like to, for example, if I would like to remove a element from this list, so what we can do is we can perform del a, del a, and let's say the first element, so which is 50, since we have already inserted it. And if I'm going to perform it, so what will happen? Print A, and you can say that is the, so we can say that is the value has been removed. Correct? The value has been removed. So since we have already, it has been performed 2 times. Okay. So let me do it once. So let's say this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete, let's say I'm going to delete a last element. For example, welcome. I'm going to delete this last element. So I'm going to use del minus del a bracket -1, and I'm going to print this element, right? So you can say that is the value has been deleted. Correct? Let's go to the remove, right? For example, in this case, if I have to remove any object, any element from it, so we can also use remove. So let's say in this case, I'm going to use remove functions. And for that, for example, if I have to remove any particular value, for example, if I have to remove 5000 from here, so what I'm going to do is putting 5000, and then what I'm going to do is print A. Correct? And see, the value has been removed it from here. Correct? So this is also another method where we can apply to remove the elements from the list. Next is pop. So what pop is doing, since it is one of the feature, or you can say function, that widely used into the data structure, for example, a stack. In that case, we will use pop. So what pop does, it start removing the element from the last. So if I'm going to use a dot pop, and then I'm going to pop, and in that case I'm going to print A, it will start removing the element from the last. So what will happen? It has removed Python, right? If again I'm going to perform this task, it is going to remove 4000. So let's say if I'm going to perform this task again, so it is going to remove 4000 again. So it is going to start removing the element from the last. Next is clear. So let's say if you would like to remove all the element from the list, in that case you can perform clear. For example, your list is, let's say this time 2, 4, 5, 9. So let's say this is a list, and in this list you would like to clear, or you would like to remove all the elements from this list. So what you can write? c dot clear, c dot clear, and if you are going to print c, it will show you a blank list, correct? So it is going to remove all the elements from it, right? So this is all about, like, delete, remove, pop, and clear, right? So let's go to the next one. Next is operation in the list, correct? As we have discussed some of the operations into the string, for example, concatenate. So this time, let's say I have a list 1. For example, let's say 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20. And another list is, let's say, list 2. And I have a list 2. And this time I have an element, let's say 3, 5, 1, 9. And this time I'm going to perform print list 1 plus list 2. So what will happen? It is going to concatenate the list 1 and list 2. So you can say that, you can say that is the value is getting concatenated, and it is going to create a new list, which is 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 3, 5, 1, 9. So this is a new list, while list 1 and list 2 is remains same, right? Similarly, if you are going to perform list 1, let's say print list 1 multiply by 2. So that means you can say the value inside, so all the element is getting printed twice, right? So we can perform concatenate and repetitions task, right, by using these two operators. Next is, you can say, okay, so let's say in this case, next is function in the list. So what you can do is, while checking the function of the list, okay, so let's say if you want to understand which are the functions can be applied over here, so let's go and talk about those functions. For example, we have a list, okay, 1, and if you want to see those functions, what you can do is just write the name of the variable, which is list 1, then again press the dot followed by tab, and you have all the list inside there, right, which is append, clear, copy, count, index, remove, and sort. So let's say in this case, what we are going to use it, some of the function. Let's say I'm going to use some of the functions. For example, let's say I'm going to use reverse function, correct? Let's say I'm going to use reverse function. So what is going to happen? And you are going to put print list 1. So what it does, 2, 4, 5, okay, it is, okay, so let's say it is going to store into, let's say, in variable v, and this time we are going to print v, okay. So what it happening, it is showing none. I will tell you why, what is the reason. But before going to that stage, let me show you this part. Let me copy that part. And if I'm going to use list 1 dot reverse, and in that case, what will be the changes? So you can see that is reverse in place. So that means in place reverse will be possible. So let's say if I'm going to take another list, for example, if I'm going to use list 2, and then I'm going to print list 2, correct? List 2. So what will happen? It is going to reverse the, it is going to reverse the elements, okay? So that means 9 is going to before So that means is order is getting is like the list is getting reversed. So it is nothing but like mirror image. So you can say that is reverse function is just flipping the list, right? Another function you can check, let's say list one, and in this case dot and press tab. For example, you can say sort, correct? And then you are going to use print list one, correct? So what will happen? So it is going to sort the list, right? So which is already into sorted. So let me do it for list two. For list two, and then in that case, what we are going to do is print list two. So you can say it is getting sorted. So 1, 3, 5, 9, correct? So let me take it another example. List two dot, and in this case, what I'm going to do is index. So let's say in this case, what we are going to do is values. For example, if I'm going to put 9, so what it should return? So that means 9 is which indexing positions? So you can say 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it is giving us that the indexing value of particular elements, right? Similarly, if you are going to use list 2 dot index, let's say 5. In this case, you can get 2, right? So 5, the value of indexing, what is the value of 5? So it is 0, 1, and 2. So you can get the value of 2, right? So this is how you can perform or you can use different function of the list. So hope you have enjoyed this session, guys. If you have any query, please let me know and I will try to respond to you. So we have a paid training as well as, guys. So please, if you want to go for the paid training, please fill up the form below and our team will be respond to you. So thank you, guys. Thank you once again.